Welcome back, everybody. It's your boy Fletcher, and we're back for another video on a new class this term called Mass Communications and Society. Now, my professor is making us do a nice little project based around social media. Well, not social media, just media in general. And our assignment's called Mass Media, Past, Present, and Future. Now, I basically had to interview someone that was about 30 years older, someone that was about 10 years younger, and then someone known as me, the present. And I went ahead and I interviewed my grandma, Diana. She is about, I'm pretty sure she is 75. And then my nephew, who is 10, Bo. And then, of course, like I said, me. And I am 21 years old. Now, before I get too far ahead, I do want to explain kind of why we're even doing this assignment. It's basically to look at the differences between the timelines. What, we actually look at nowadays and what was shown to, my grandma in the past. We want to examine the impact of the media on those around me, as well as noting the media consumption, how much of it we get, where we get it from, whether that's good or bad. And honestly, nowadays not good. Back then, better, but we'll look deeper into that. So guys, took off the flannel, but let's talk about my grandma. She's gone through a lot, obviously being a little bit older than most of us. She was getting her media from what? Black and white TV, a radio, newspaper, and maybe some magazines. That's still slightly that's what we're getting today. Add on social media and all that, but black and white TV really only had you had news, which thankfully I think the news was actually a lot better back in the day, because they would actually get in trouble if they were saying non-factual statements compared to today. It's just basically opinions. The radio, if you didn't have a TV, you were always listening to the radio for your news, for the sports, for whatever. She wasn't huge on watching the news anyways. She doesn't like politics all that much, so with the news you get a lot of politics, and so she just stayed away from it. The radio, I think she really would only use the radio for music. She had a huge list. She's really country girl, country western, but she still loved a bunch of the classics. I have a bunch of her records. She did Big Elvis girl, Beatles, Eagles. The list goes on, but Fleetwood Mac. She just loved the classic, which is good to hear, When it came to newspaper, she, again, never really touched it. It was a lot of news and a lot of politics on there, and stuff that she just didn't like. So she would read it every once in a while, kind of just pick it up, glance at it, but never really sit down and read the whole thing. She would also love reading magazines. So she got a lot of her news from magazines as well. Pretty much the same as what you'd get today. So a lot of that celebrity's breaking up with who, and drama this, drama that. But she also had a lot of National Geographic books, or magazines, I should say, which is actually pretty cool. She found one that was from 1941, when Pearl Harbor happened, and 1952, which is, I mean, I'm sure those are worth something nowadays. But it's crazy to think that she really kept them for this long. Oh, and wait, I have to mention, the TV shows that she would watch back in the day were pretty much only propaganda shows. And again, politics and war and stuff, and she did not like it. All those cartoons, didn't really like them. She also really remembered about, who is it? John Carson. John Carson was huge for her, I guess. I looked him up. He looked like he only was starting to become popular in the 50s with the TV show, and then just kind of went up from there, movie after movie. So, makes sense. He seems pretty popular. But she also said she watched a lot of Star Trek. Once color starts coming around and get a little bit later on, she watched a lot of Star Trek when she was getting married, because my grandpa Ron loved Star Trek. So she was kind of forced into watching it, but she remembered. So as I mentioned earlier, she's 75, so she's been through quite a bit. So let's talk about like historic events that she remembers. Vietnam War was huge. She just got married with my grandpa. He saw that people were either going to get drafted, or he had a chance to kind of choose where he wanted to be with his friends if he went to sign up. So he signed up. Didn't get to go where he wanted. Either way, it doesn't matter. He came back, thankfully, but not with really big open arms, as everybody hated all the veterans like it was their fault. They didn't want to be there either. But she got all that hatred echoed off of him and onto her too. So it was really bad for both of them. I mean, he of course had like PTSD type stuff too. So it was like he had to deal with all of this fact that the war changed him a little bit, and the fact that nobody welcomes him back. You got the JFK assassination. She felt very scared. She actually read a magazine about one of the security guards that jumped to try and protect the president. Obviously, nobody saw that coming. You can't really sense a scope on you. But he actually saved the first lady. But he felt really guilty, I guess, about not being able to save the president. You have the MLK marches. She says she didn't realize how bad the racism was, but I'm sure back then you kind of just knew. But she said it made her feel sad that it was like so bad. She didn't notice too much of a violence difference or anything in her like area. But she saw a lot of stuff on TV, so it just made her feel bad. The moon landing happened between July 16th and 24th, and her birthday is July 20th. So she said she'll never forget that because it was happening during her birthday, which was awesome. I mean, it was a big step for everybody. She also remembers a girl named Sally Ride, the first lady to get into orbit. So she felt a very good sense of pride for women, and just feeling acknowledged. Hopefully, one step closer to being a little bit more equal back then. And then there's also 9/11. 9/11 was huge for everybody, and she said she remembers just getting dressed for the day, all of a sudden hearing a bunch of stuff on the TV, and when she went to go look, they started broadcasting everything, and of course that second plane came and hit, and everybody was freaking out. She kind of just started bawling tears. She had her husband there, my grandpa, also in shock. They were just holding each other, hoping for the best. But, I mean, I'm sure it was very scary. She is also not tech savvy at all. I mean, nowadays she's even having problems doing text message. But, I mean, throughout my entire life, I've always had to help her, with the TV, computer, tablet, her phone. I mean, everything. Which, I mean, I understand, but I do clean people's houses for a living, and I go into older people's houses, and there are a lot of them that are pretty tech savvy. I think everybody at this point has a smartphone, besides some. There are still landlines, but still, it just surprises me that some people just really never converted over and started learning some of this new stuff. That brings me to my nephew, Bo. 10 years old, grew up on technology. Not exactly his fault, but it's just the world we live in right now. And I would say that the majority of his time is spent on technology. He let me know that pretty much on the weekends, he would be on technology for about 10 to 12 hours. If you incorporate a good amount of sleep, which is about 8 hours, that only leaves 4 to 6 hours of free time to do whatever else he's got to do. As a kid, he doesn't have much to do, maybe some homework or whatnot. But that's just crazy to me. And another interesting thing I learned from a class that I'm taking this term as well is that the average time spent outside for kids is 30 minutes. 30 minutes. That's insane. Insanely disappointing. As when I was a kid, me and my brother would be outside for probably 5+ hours. I don't remember not wanting to not be outside. Riding bikes, playing with friends, climbing trees, getting hurt, doing whatever we possibly could. Video games were a huge part of our life too, but it wasn't the majority of it. And we definitely weren't on a screen. He has a phone. He's 10. I didn't get a phone until I was going in the freshman year of high school. So I was about 15, 16. Not a huge gap, but 10 years old, he's not even in middle school, I don't think. Or maybe he's 6th grade. But still. And I didn't get to start out with an iPhone 14 either. I got to start out with the crappy old Motorola. So, lucky him. But he's also just a Fortnite kid. Huge Fortnite kid. Just plays Fortnite all day when he can. There's 4 kids in his household. All of them play Fortnite. They all just play when they have free time. And then when they get bored of Fortnite, they go and play their own game, or they actually find time to watch a TV show. But other than that, he's just always on technology, which is surprising. And I won't lie, there is some good to the technology. He has a computer, and he actually does some coding, surprisingly. But it's actually pretty interesting. I'm glad his dad actually got him introduced into that type of field. But he's coding like Lego cars. So he coded a controller to control a Lego car that he built, and that can move around and stuff, which is super cool. But this stuff. He gets all of his information from social media, TikTok, Instagram. Not very good sources at all, seeing as not only are they personalized apps, so once you start to pick a side of what you like, it only shows you that in somewhat related items. And then, hopefully he's not really seeing too much politics on social media, but if you were to start liking Republican stuff or start liking Democratic stuff, it starts to only show you that one side, which is just completely biased at that point. It's not like news nowadays is already completely biased. There's 8 news stations, and half of them are Republican and half of them are Democratic. So, either way, you're gonna have to pick and choose the pieces that you think are actually true. But yeah, I don't get it. And thankfully, a phone you can also take phone calls for your dad if there's emergency stuff like that, or text your awesome uncle. But he uses it to listen to music too. Apparently he loves rap, which perfect choice. I love rap too. But other than that, how to light turn off guy. Gosh. But, I mean, other than that, he learns, I mean, stuff from class, of course, but how much are you actually taking in and actually remembering? Because, I mean, I remember class, and I would definitely not remember everything. And then, of course, little bits of information from the parents, but that's not really too much. So let's talk about myself. I am the president, right? So I unfortunately can't say that I'm too much better. I am on social media quite a bit, Instagram, Snapchat. Thank God I don't go on TikTok. No. But Instagram, I get a lot of information from. I'm sure a lot of it is not true, which, of course, I don't just take what it says. I obviously will do research. I don't watch the news. I don't have a news article that I read. I basically, if I hear something, I look it up. So, like, those giant cargo ships hitting those bridges, heard about it, saw someone's TV showing it, looked it up. More, like, internal research stuff. But it's crazy how much social media really controls people's lives. Thankfully, it doesn't. I mean, I'm on social media quite a bit, but it doesn't take the majority of my time. But for the most part, I mean, social media is people's jobs sometimes. I mean, there's influencers, there's people making funny videos to try and become popular. I mean, there's all sorts of different things. I mean, you create a song, you got to post a bunch on social media so that way it becomes more popular and hopefully you pop off and all of this. But it really does control a lot of what today's world is, and I think that's also why it's not good, because again, it starts to become biased when you start to do personalization on stuff. It starts to block out stuff. I mean, Google is also personalized, and it will block out certain things. So, like, if I look something up, you look up the exact same thing, we'll get completely different results, which, in my mind, it blows my mind because of the fact that I feel like I should be able to look up something that's happening today, and you look up the exact same thing, and it should pop up with the first 5 same articles or whatnot. But instead, it will pop up with what it thinks I want to see compared to what you want to see, and what it thinks that it should show us. So how can Google be biased? It's a search engine. But of course, I mean, it does slightly control us a little bit, right? I think I really to really put this together, you gotta think about, so my grandma. Back then, news, I hope, wasn't too biased. I mean, I know for a fact that it definitely was a way better source of actually getting information. They would typically tell you the truth, and if they didn't, they would actually get in trouble and possibly shut down. Compared to today, I mean, they just throw opinions around. It's not even facts anymore. I feel like it's just something happened, and now they're letting you know how they think it happened. So it makes no sense, but obviously it has changed a lot from then to now. Social media obviously wasn't around back then. There's no cell phones or anything, and it's just huge. It's changed. Technology has changed the world in a lot of good ways, but a lot of bad ways. I mean, it seems like in the future we're going to have, if anyone's seen Ready Player One, everybody's just going to be locked into a video game, earning money through the video game and just barely living. Like, I don't see it going very well for anybody.
I should also mention that I just realized that when you really compare all three of us, the fact that my grandma has seen so many things on the news, in the newspaper, but then when you think about right now, or like even with my nephew, we're getting all of our news from social media. We're like with Gaza, with Ukraine and Russia, that all came through social media. I mean, people watching TV and watching the news, yes, of course, they saw it on there. Not for very long. I'm sure you guys realize they kind of just gave you a little taste of the information, and then they're like, oh, wait, we don't want people really to think about that right now. So we'll throw in Johnny Depp's case or some random celebrity thing to distract us. But yeah, no, I feel like everybody my age, around his age, all of us are getting most of our information from social media, which is not very good. Especially if you consider the fact that social media really, is it true? Is it not true? What pieces of it are true? Is it AI? Like, there's so many different things nowadays. It's hard to really decide whether or not something's factual or not. But that's why you also got to do the due diligence of, like, doing your own research. Which is why, like, if I see something or hear about something like the cargo ships crashing into the bridges, I look it up and I try and find some articles that actually talk about it good. And then I get more information about it. I don't just, like, stick there. Or, like, when the aliens, everybody remembers when the aliens were huge. People still talk about aliens. Well, they'll never stop, but I couldn't just stop and be like, oh, yeah, no, it looks like they were aliens in Vegas or Miami. Like, no, you gotta, like, look it up more, because that's just somebody doing something to become trendy, popular.
Now, I also have to mention, I have to mention 3 different topics that we've been talking about, and one of them is effects theories. There are 3 main ones that I wanted to talk about. So there's cultivation theory, which suggests that long-term exposure to media, particularly TV, can shape perceptions of reality and influence attitudes and beliefs. Now, as you're hearing that, you're probably instantly agreeing with that, because that's 100% true. I mean, come on. People watch TV, they watch the news, and that will 100% influence their thoughts and how they do things, their beliefs, their attitude. If they see television saying that guns are bad, they're going to start thinking guns are bad, right? There's agenda setting theory. Proposes that the media has the power to shape public opinion by highlighting certain issues and making them seem more important. You know, I think this is a very good theory because of the fact I feel like there's a lot of distractions that go on in the world. And for one, I know everybody heard about Johnny Depp's case that happened not too long ago. That was, like, there's so much government stuff going on that they had to throw something in the way to distract everybody. And this basically, I mean, like as it says, proposes that the media has the power to shape public opinion by stopping them from seeing other stuff. They showed them Johnny Depp, made that completely popular, highlighted it, and then made that seem more important. Doesn't make sense, guys. And then there's the hypodermic needle theory, which the idea that media messages are directly injected into the minds of passive audiences, leading to immediate and uniform effects. Tell me that doesn't just sound like TikTok. Huh? I mean, what? One guy starts a trend and instantly it's popped off, right? One person starts an information trend, like aliens. Everybody remembers when that was a popular thing, right? I mean, it still is talked about. But that was like a whole few months of straight everybody thinking like, oh my God, aliens, aliens, aliens. So, I mean, all of those theories, they're theories. But at the same time, I mean, if you really think about it, they're pretty true. All right, another theory time. So, Big Mac theory. Big Mac, McDonald's, obviously. But it basically is a concept it suggests that the spread of fast food chains like McDonald's across the world leads to a uniform global culture. People in various countries might consume similar fast food products and adopt similar eating habits, which can result in a loss of local culinary traditions and cultural uniqueness. Which, I mean, if you think about it, not only do a good majority of the U.S. like eat fast food, but people DoorDash, which again, eating fast food, it's like taking over. And not only that, but now they're making it outrageously expensive, which what the hell? What the hell? I don't even want to go anymore sometimes. It's too expensive. But I could totally see, I mean, hopefully you can think that if everybody's doing this, everybody's getting these bad habits to eat unhealthy. I mean, the U.S. is one of the most obese countries. And then we got the fact that now everybody's unhealthy. They can't be active. Everybody's at home. They start to DoorDash instead. They're just even more lazy. And everybody picks up this habit. It just goes on and on and on. Your kids, and then they follow what you're doing, so then they start that habit, and then it just keeps going and going. And I could totally see how this could make it so we lose traditions, like traditional culinary meals and plates, because people instead are just going for a quick, fast meal that tastes good, not good for you, compared to making this giant feast of what you what your ancestors used to make. And then let's talk about high culture and low culture. So high culture is like what you would consider sophisticated, fancy, kind of like what the rich people would be using and have. And then there's low culture. Low culture is also known as popular culture. Refers to cultural products and activities that are accessible to a broader audience and are often perceived as less sophisticated. Examples like pop music, reality TV, comic books, and fast food. But all of these things are still very popular. But why do I even mention this? What high culture, low culture, Big Mac theory, effects theory, all of these, I mean, if you think about it, we're just really thinking about how technology and social media and media in general has basically transformed the world. I mean, not only has it changed from the past, but it's gotten so bad that it influences us like instantly. Like we believe everything. We believe everything, but we also question everything, which is very weird. Like how has it gotten to a point where like we see something and we don't know if it's actually real or not? I mean, especially with AI coming around. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that shit's crazy. The fact that now I don't even know if it's a real video or not, or if that's a real person or all this stuff. That's a whole other topic, though. But, yeah, no, you just gotta really think. I mean, it affects our attitudes. It changes our beliefs. It changes how we eat, how we drink, how we do all of our activities. And it changes basically what we think is fancy, what is popular. Oh, guys, the light turned off again, guys. And what we think is the next big trend. I mean, someone posts one thing, and then it just turns into a whole thing for everybody to see and everybody to recreate and all this. Now, to finish off this video, I have to explain what I think the world will look like in 2020, or 2020, no, 2055. Now, that's really not too long away. But, I mean, of course, if you think from, like, 2000 to 2025 or 2024, not there yet, so much has changed. I mean, we went from barely having the internet to having social media start to be formed, Facebook, I think, was 2004. To YouTube right after that. I mean, two of the biggest social media platforms, to now having AI. I mean, in 2 decades, we went from having basically the beginnings of everything to now having everything too complicated, completely advanced. So, I mean, in another 30 years, I can't even imagine. I can only think that in 30 years, we're going to see, if anyone's like watched the movie Ready Player One, that's for sure going to become a thing. I don't even think it's going to take 30 years. I think for sure that's going to happen pretty soon. I mean, when you think of the technology that the Apple Pro or Vision Pros and even like the Meta Quest, the technology that they have in that is insane. To the point where it already I mean, you see videos all the time on the internet, funny videos of people on it. They're using it and then they just fall over because they were so into the game and they thought it was so real life that they literally thought they were falling in real life, which blows my mind. But for sure, I think in 30 years, we'll for sure have that. Now, when you think about how Amazon is selling houses already, like these little foldable houses, I think, again, with the movie, all of these small little boxes are just stacked on top of each other to save land and all of this. They're not good. But if no one's leaving their house because they can live in their virtual reality and make money through virtual reality, which we've already seen too, there's a lot of casino virtual reality games, which look pretty interesting. But it's just like, are you serious? Like, it seems like a cool idea, but if you think about the fact, like I was talking about Bo, my nephew, he's already completely like technology driven. If you multiply that with the fact that you can tap into an actual game and be someone else, not only are you going to get all of those people completely addicted and they're gone, but you're going to start getting people, like when I get older, I mean, depressed people, all these other people that don't want to be themselves anymore. They don't want to live in the real world. They'd rather be someone make-believe, someone perfect. They're living in this virtual world, this perfect mansion. It's too much. And honestly, like, when you think about media, it's only going to get worse. I mean, we went from having multiple news stations to only having about 8 or 9. I mean, just thinking about, like, oil companies, there used to be multiple, now there's only like 3. Honestly, the government's going crazy right now. Hopefully we can get a little bit better, but if not, in 30 years, it's going to be crazy. The world is going to be completely different. There's too many ideas, I feel like, that could possibly... There's so many possibilities. And hopefully it's for the good. Of course. But you never know. I mean, there might be another war. There might be something crazy that... Guys, the light again. But, yeah, I don't know. I just hope for the best. But overall, social media usage should be declined. I mean, it should be no more. Sometimes I just want to delete it because it just takes up time. It takes up everybody's time, and I think people have a hard time realizing that time is very precious. We can't buy it. Yeah, we really only have a limited amount of time, and people still use the majority of it on a screen. And like I said, I think it's only going to get worse from here. Apple Vision Pros will turn into eventually little goggles that you wear that will just bring you an entirely new reality. I think also, I
I didn't really mention it, but AI. AI is going to be huge. I think we possibly might hit some sort of Terminator type stuff, but I'm hoping not. But you never know. Hopefully they keep the regulations pretty high up, so we never have to worry about that. So AI is going to change a lot. It already has changed a lot with the very bare minimum, and it's only getting better from here. How many jobs is it going to take? Robo-taxis with Tesla are coming out in August. How is that going to work? Is everybody going to have self-driving cars eventually in 2055? It seems like a long stretch, but you never know. But who's going to be at fault? Like, when a robo-taxi crashes into something, is it like who's getting in trouble? If I buy a self-driving car and it crashes, is it my fault or is it Tesla's fault? Or is it just like, is it the insurance fault? Who am I going to blame? If I'm having a self-driving car and it crashes into somebody, I run someone over and they die. Am I going to jail for murder, or is the insurance going to cover it somehow? Is Tesla going to take fault? Of course not. So it's going to be interesting. I have high hopes that everything will be fine, but it's hard to really see at a standpoint and a viewpoint from like this exact moment in time how it could be good. I mean, to be blatantly honest. But hopefully things will change. Government will get a little bit better, hopefully. And everything will be all good. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. That's another video with your boy Fletster. It was a long one compared to the last one. But you got a lot of information from me. Hopefully you learned a bit. And yeah, we basically learned about the past, the present, and the future. How all three of us got our media consumption, how they're different and how they're the same, and what the future might look like. But thank you guys.